Am I going to waste time today? I don't believe God ever calls us together to waste our time, to disappoint us, but always to help us draw us closer to Him and closer to one another. That was His plan. So let me read a little note here to you. Somebody sent me, which I think gets over very well what we're going to talk about today. Here's a story that could describe any failing team, organization, company, or church. And it's titled after 4 people: everybody, somebody, anybody, nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was asked to do it. Everybody was sure somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry that nobody was doing it. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what everybody could have done. What we're going to talk about today, everybody, if you're a follower of Jesus, you can do this. If you're not, I hope you'll get to know Him, and we'll talk about that at the end of the talk today. All of us, I think, look for meaning and purpose in life. And we kind of go up and down in terms of the things we do, we engage in, whether it's our family, our work, our travels, our recreation, whatever. But a lot of times when that's over, we kind of, maybe at night when we're lying in the bed, feel, it's not quite hitting the spot. 75% of the people that go to work in our country on Monday don't like what they do. And you're never going to find any one job that's going to fulfill you 100%, by the way. But I think there's an aching feeling inside of us that we're looking to fulfill it. And one of the things that I believe can do a pretty good job at that is as we come to know Christ and get to know Him and follow Him and are engaged in His plan to change the planet, whether it's Dallas, it's Texas, it's the nation, or beyond, when we are engaged in that faithfully, you're going to find a satisfaction and a fulfillment that you can find in no other way. And I'm here to tell you, having done what I've been doing for probably almost 60 years, and here in Dallas for 20 years, the fulfillment is something that really is beyond just any natural thing. So, as you take a look at our world, I wrote down a few descriptive terms. It's dark, it's fallen, it's relativistic, and by that I mean the basic flow in our culture is, and the overwhelming philosophy is, there's no true truth. There's no absolutes. So do whatever is expedient for you, and that's the deal of the day. No absolute truth. And then finally, we're a hurting country and a hurting world. And so as we think about that, and I think another term, my wife uses this a lot from the Scripture, the creation moans. We're a world of moaners, looking for some hope and some relief and some deeper meaning and purpose in this life. So God has a plan. God has a plan to change the planet. And it's not, we read this here in Matthew 28, chapter 28, verse 19. Jesus is speaking to His disciples. By the way, His plan was three years with 12 men, and that was His plan to change the planet. Now, nobody raised their hands when He was talking to them on the mountain after He was raised from the dead and said, hey, I got a better idea. They knew exactly what He was talking about because they had been recipients of 3 years with Him. They knew exactly what to do. And we're here today because of what those 12 men, and one of them pooped out and he had to put another one in, but what they did. We're here today because of that. And we need to understand that. So God's plan, Matthew 28, He says, go therefore into all the world and make disciples. Or you can translate that as you are going. But the key is, what does it mean to make a disciple? Well, a disciple is more than a Christian. Someone has said it this way, that we've got plenty of Christians in this world. We got plenty of Christians in Dallas. What we are short of are disciples. There's a difference, biblically speaking, from a Christian who's got their ticket punched and going to heaven and a disciple. Jesus' emphasis was on being a disciple. What is a disciple? We talked about it last week. 3 things: a learner, a follower, and a reproducer. And so today we're going to look at that just a little deeper, but not me talking about it. So the plan, let me look at 2 Timothy 2:2. Here's a good one. And the things Paul says that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men who will be able to disciple others, who will disciple others, who will disciple others, who will disciple others. Get your pen or your computer out and do your little exponential mathematic process and see what happens and what explodes. You want to take the country? You want to change something in this nation? If we don't do it by His plan, then it's never going to happen. We don't need more Bible studies, and I'm all for Bible studies. We don't need any more small groups. I'm all for small groups. But we need individual men that will band together to take on somebody, to walk with them for a period of time, to lay a faith foundation in their life that they can live by, practice, and invest in somebody else. A guy came to me one time at a very liberal church here in Dallas, and I went to this liberal church to teach. I love liberal churches. Could I get in there and tell them about Jesus? I mean, the first Sunday I taught, we had this class, about 300 adults, and I gave an invitation at the end of the very first week. The pastor called me that afternoon. He said, you know how many people came to Christ? He said 97, and 56 of them were our church members. So it's a hotbed for getting people to Jesus, right in there. I love that place. But I was training some people kind of like this, and so this guy comes up to me at the end, and he says, John, he says, I can't do this. So I had 40 guys in a room. Everybody left. This guy, probably 40 years old. I said, I can't do that. I said, why can't you do it? I just can't do it. I looked at him, I said, and I didn't even know the guy. And sometimes people, why you talk to people like that? They know I care, I think. Hopefully they do. And I said, let me ask you something. Can you read? He said, yeah, I can read. I said, well, get your butt out here and go do it. So he had his 4 priority book, which is just a manual to help him along. And about 6 months later, he walks up to me at Angela's, little greasy spoon restaurant over here on Inwood and Lover's Lane. He's got 2 guys behind him. Here he comes. They're walking behind him like little ducks following Mama Duck, just walking along. They got their Bible. They got this orange book. He said, John, this has changed my life. It'll change your life. Okay, I want the following people, and I got a whole lot more I wanted to say, but this is why we're here today. Joseph Lee, come up and have a seat, and you enter over here on those steps. Steve Hatfield, Jim Caldwell, Andrew Yates, Jeff Swope, Dr. Carl Couch, Michael Santiago. If you will come up and just spread out and have a seat. And we're going to get started here. This is what we came for today. Not me, but these guys. And we've got some guys. We got some great men here. Have I missed anybody that's supposed to be up here? Okay, because I do miss people. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do, and first of all, I'm going to take my mic, and I'm going to go down here with a guy who is probably the most distinguished guy in the group, Brad Popkin. Brad, you got 1 minute. Turn around, look at these guys. Now stand up. I want you to stand up. Turn around, look at these guys, and give them a minute on what discipling has meant to you and why you've been doing it.
Well, I'm thankful to be here, guys, and this guy just put this on me. All I can tell you is being a learner, follower, reproducer is paramount. And we got all kinds of things going on now. You know, guys that don't know the Lord, but this is about guys that need to be stronger, to stand firm, stand strong in their faith. Just like there's a scripture in 1 Peter. He says, you're going to have trials of many kinds. These are coming so that your faith of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, will be proved genuine. That's what we want. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful to have the opportunity to even talk to you like this.
You're a little too passionate for this, man. You need to slow down a little bit. Gee. Okay, so I met this guy probably, 4 or 5 years ago, and we spent a year together, and I want you to tell him, Joseph, where you're from, briefly what you do and why you're involved in this disciple making, and that you are committed to doing that. How long? Hopefully a long time. Hold that mic up tight.
Hi, my name is Joseph. It's a privilege to be here. I'm a youth and young adults pastor at Reunion Church. That's where John and I met. We met probably in 2018. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I knew from the beginning when I was a believer, discipleship is what Christians should do. I just didn't know how to do that. No one really walked me through. I went to seminary here in Dallas, and when I was in seminary, I have no excuse. I know the information, so I got to do this. But I think really what John has taught me and walked me through when he was walking me with 4 priority was to doing life together. And that really changed my view on discipleship. And it wasn't just passing on the information. He invited me into his life, and I got to see how he's living out as a disciple and discipler, and that I get to learn from him, and then I get to do the same. And I've been doing this ever since we finished it, and I finished 2 guys, and I'm discipling 2 guys at the moment, and just doing the life together. And I think that's the key for me when it comes to discipleship.
And one of the things that each of these guys know, they are expected not just to go through it with somebody, but the guys that they disciple on the front end are asked to make a commitment that they will do the same, at least with 1 guy a year, the rest of their lives. That's a commitment, because this is not a new program. This is a lifestyle, and this is what we're supposed to be doing. Thank you, buddy. Pass it on to my buddy. Now, this guy over here, I call him a cowboy from Forney, Texas, and this old boy comes with those starched jeans and starched shirt. He's always looking good. I love this guy. He's got a great background, a great history and story. So, Steve, let her fly. Hold it up there, baby. You're in.
Well, my name is Steve Hatfield, and I'm very honored to be sitting up here and given the opportunity to tell you what this means to me. My grandson was playing football for Dallas Christian, and John went to speak to him, and my grandson called me up that afternoon and said, "Paul, I met a guy today that you need to know," and that's how I got started in this. It's been about 7 or 8 years ago now. What I find about this discipleship program is that more than anything else, it's a way for 2 men to sit down together, discuss what we understand about the Bible, what we understand about our relationship with the Lord, and to implement that into our life as the 4 priorities guides us to do that. It's not about me trying to tell somebody else what they need to do, nor vice versa. John helped me learn this when he hooked me up with a guy that was working on his PhD at Dallas Seminary, and he expected me to disciple him. Well, I about had a fit. I said, "What am I going to tell this guy?" And John said, "It's not about what you can tell him. It's just about you guys working through this together." And truer words have never been spoken. I've also found that this is a way for me to be involved in ministry for the rest of my life. It causes me to study more and to look more at how I'm living my life. It has done wonders at our church. We have probably close to 30 men now who are involved in this, and our women are on the verge of starting this, going through the book together right now. So I'm very thankful to God that things have come about in my life that's put me here at this moment. Thank you.
And so Steve calls me up, and when this guy who's a PhD candidate, and he says, "I can't do this." I said, "Yeah, you can." And so I urged him to keep doing it. And then he calls me 8 or 9 months later and said, "Well, we finished it. It's been great. He said, you know, that guy was head of all not all the ammunition and anything we do with ammunition all over the world for our government, and now they just upgraded him. He's the head of all cybersecurity all over the world in our embassies. And I guess who discipled him? Steve from Forney, Texas. See, that's what we don't think. Oh, you got to be some big deal. Right there. Okay, one of my new friends over the last year and a half is Jim Caldwell. Jim, give us a little bit.
Okay, so I'm Jim Caldwell, and John got me involved here. He told you earlier that anybody can do this, so I'm the test case. He's going to prove that anybody can do this through me, or so he thinks. Anyway, so I'm just finishing up a year of discipleship with John, and he's been discipling me, and it's been truly one of the best experiences of my life, John. I want to thank you publicly for pouring into me for the last year. And I never had anybody do that to me before. And I've been a believer for a long, long time. But to have somebody come and walk alongside me in this way has truly been special and moving for me. And it has gotten me to the point that I sit here and say, I have to get into the game. Coach has told me I need to get in the game. I'm going to get in the game. And so I'm looking forward to finishing up with you next week, and hopefully the Lord will bring somebody alongside me that I can
He's
pour
already
into.
got them ready, Jim. You just better be ready. They're coming.
Okay,
He's
I'm
gonna
ready.
load you up.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to thank you, Jim. I tell you, every one of these guys, there's a story, and sitting every week in my little chair, and they sit in front of me, and we have, it's not about going through a manual. This is just to help us lay a base and a foundation for some conversation that will help us and help others. But the life this guy lives and the others that you're going to meet, it's amazing. And that's what it's all about. And I think sometimes we know so many people we're acquainted with, we're close with anybody. And this is the way this is supposed to be. And I think, frankly, a lot of people don't get involved with this because they got dirt in their life. They got sin. They got stuff they don't want to deal with. Well, I'm disqualified. You're not disqualified. I tell you something, we all have sin. For all of sin that comes short of what God expects. So I'm going to put it on the screen. Thank you, Jim. I'm going to put on the screen a couple of pictures. And I want to tell you this story. I'm not going to play the video today, but we got a young man, and I want to tell you about Jonathan. Jonathan, I met back in January. I spoke in Orlando at Orlando Country Club, and some of the people there where I worked for 20 years said, we're going to put on a deal called A Night to Remember. After I spoke, it was kind of a renamed, A Night to Forget. But anyway, we had a great time. I spoke to a packed house kind of like this, people we knew and so forth. But I talked a little bit about disciple making. When it was over and I got back, they had a message waiting for me in my office, and it was this guy, Jonathan, who's 31 years old. And I knew his granddaddy years ago, Malcolm Clayton, who was a leader in Orlando, in the city of Orlando, and a great man. But he said, I need somebody to walk with me because I want to do what you talked about. I don't want to wait till I'm 50 or 60 years old and lose all those opportunities. I want to do it now. Will you get me ready? And so we meet FaceTime every week for an hour. He's prepared. We talk. We laugh. We cut up. But a couple weeks ago, his wife had their first baby. And now I said, so when we get to the chapters on being a father, you're going to be ready. Because now you got one of them right there. So it's really fun every week to be able to be with Jonathan. And you'd love this guy. I mean, he is so sharp. These sharp young guys, man, give us a flock of them. All right, now I'm going to also put up a video by Coach Doug Wren. A couple years ago, you might remember
Hey, good morning,
Doug.
fellas. My name.
Go ahead, that's good. Thanks.
Hey, good morning, fellas. My name is Doug Wren. I'm the current athletic director on the campus of Tyler Junior College. I've been fortunate enough to be the head baseball coach here for the last 15 years as I got to know John, and his time in sports was an easy connection point for us. And I was looking for someone that would kind of kick me in the rear a little bit. Tell you a little bit about my story. I was born in a Christian home. I grew up a believer. I was a believer in Christ from the age of 16. And my walk with the Lord has been just kind of a roller coaster up until a few years ago, when I just kind of felt like I needed a kick in the rear. And literally 2 months after praying that prayer, I ran into John Tolson, walked through 12 months of discipleship, and John helped me in my walk with the Lord, and through the 4 priorities, helped me reprioritize my life and gave me the opportunity to have a bigger and greater impact for his name on this earth. And that's my encouragement to you guys today. I'm excited for you guys to hear from John. John changed my life. He changed my family's life. I'm forever grateful for him and his investment in my life. And so my prayer for you guys today, that you guys would have open mind, open hearts, and that you would leave there motivated, equipped, challenged, and that ultimately, fellas, I was on the bench, and you can't impact the game from the bench. And so my encouragement to you is get off the bench, get in the game, and make an impact for his glory, not ours.
All right, Coach, that's a good one. I love it. So Doug has a group of doctors that he is going through the 4 priorities with every week, early in the morning before work, and they're some of the leading doctors in Tyler, Texas. But the impact when somebody gets so hungry and so eager, we'll be sitting there on FaceTime, because we did it at FaceTime. I said, "What are you writing?" He said, "I'm taking copious notes of everything we're talking about here." He said, "That's the way I remember it. I'm writing it down." Boy, I love that hunger. You find you one like that, and you got a home run right there. So, Andrew Yates. Andrew Yates, I want you to give him a little bit, a brief thing of your background, North Carolina, where you went to college, and kind of what this whole discipling means to you. He just finished, or is about finishing, his PhD. He'll tell you about that, but you got about 2 or 3 minutes, so go.
Yeah, thank you, John. So being
This
super
is a great
brief.
man right here.
My name's Andrew. I am on staff at Dallas Theological Seminary, advisor to men. Wrapping up my doctorate now, studying higher education leadership. But I was a pastor in North Carolina at one of the largest churches in the history of the world. Kind of embarrassing how big it was. And I was at the mountaintop, and it was just incredible. And I was burning the candle at both ends, twice as bright, half as long. And it was completely unsustainable, very, very impressive, but I was completely exhausted, completely drained, and I was hating it. And I had the senior pastor walks up and says, "Yates, this guy's name is Josh." I'm like, "Okay, good to meet you, Josh." And he goes, "He wants to learn how to study the Bible, teach him how to study the Bible." And if this wasn't my boss, there's no way I would have done it. I'm too busy. I'm too important. But I said, "Okay, Josh, we'll get your number. I don't have time to talk to you right now. We'll figure out a time." So we go get coffee, and Josh is super hungry because he just got saved that last weekend. But he was the #1 porn star male porn star in the history of the world. And he said, "I can't do this anymore. I'm out." He had complete crisis, left his house, left his car, went back to the Carolinas, and he said, "I'll do anything just to be under the radar." And then that's when God got a hold of him. And he said, I will do anything to grow my relationship with God. What does it look like? And at that moment, I felt God convict me, say, "You have forgotten who you are. You've forgotten what your job is. Your job is to make disciples, not to run programs. And this is all very impressive, and this brand is cool, and you've got a logo and all these things, but you're going to disciple this guy." So I made space in this guy's life, and space in my life to say, if you're going to eat what I give you to eat, I'm going to keep meeting with you as often as you're able to meet. So that afternoon, he texts me back and says, "Hey, I read that book. What's next?" "Oh, okay, let's go." And so there's a throwaway verse written by John, the disciple Jesus loved, and he says, "I have no greater joy than to see my children are walking in the truth." And he never had kids, church history tells us, but the grandparent level joy, I can tell you, is available to you right now if you never have biological kids. I hear about what he's doing to help men thrive and have victory against addiction to pornography where they feel helpless. He says, "Let me tell you about Jesus, who I met and can change your life. And if I can be qualified by what Christ says is true about me, you can be qualified by what Christ says about you." And that joy that I have, no one knows who I am. But every time I hear about that, the joy that I have is so pure and so good, and that is available to you today for free. And I cannot encourage you enough to pursue it. John, what you're doing is amazing. It gives me a simple track to run on, and it is, guys, what John has given us to do is a gift that is a blessing from God. So
why don't you take 30 seconds and tell them what you're doing that we started there
Sure.
at the seminary with disciple making.
So right before John and I connected, about 4 years ago, I had come back to Dallas, born here. You know, Texans, they come back, and the school had realized that there are so many students, future leaders of the global church, that are giving their lives to build up the church, but have never had someone invest in them.
That's right.
And Dr. Tolson says, well, let's fix that today. And so every year, a couple times, we say, hey, who wants to be discipled? And we have people raising their hands saying, no one has ever invested in me to where I can say, what does it look like? What's the foundation that everyone needs? Everyone doesn't need Hebrew. Everyone doesn't need Greek. Everyone doesn't need church history. But there is a foundation that I need to build my life on that can help someone else build their life on. And if you can read, you can do this. And so before you leave this school, be equipped not just in these ivory tower things. Like, there is deep truths of God, but the simple things of God, if we can do these things will change the world just as much as anything else.
So the key to this deal is not only Andrew's availability, but the president of the school, Mark Yarborough, who I'd been pounding on for years, and finally in 2019, he got appointed the new president at DTS, which is one of the most thriving seminaries in the nation, because some of them are drying up, along with Christian colleges. They're dropping like flies. But this place is on fire, and he is orchestrating all the discipling there. I think it's, as far as I know, it is the only seminary in the country that has an intentional disciple-making flow. And Mark himself, the president, meets with guys every week and goes through this, and he's discipling. He's modeling it out. He didn't just talking about it. Okay, I got another one here. This guy, Jeff Swope, I met a year or so ago, and when he comes in my office, I have a kind of a long office, and I hear him coming in, and my office is down here, and he's going, yeah. That's it, man. He is, it's kind of like an electrical cord. It's frayed on the end. It's just jumping around all over the place. So give it to us, Jeff. I love this guy.
Y'all.
You got to point right at you.
There you go. That's what I felt. Can you believe these guys are up here? I mean, I feel like a piker compared to these people. Thank you, guys. It's been awesome. So I'm looking out in the audience. I probably know 50 of y'all through some either real estate tie or Bible study fellowship tie or whatever it may be. And great to see you here. And I can tell you, it's John Maisel. Some of you guys know Maisel. Maisel, about 15, 18 years ago, he started East West Ministries, was discipling a number of us, but there was no book to follow. There was no, how should I put it, no guide to follow to allow you to really start pouring yourself into people. So I did what was called mentoring. A lot of people would want to question why they were still in the real estate business or whatever it may have been, needed a loan, or whatever it may have been the last 20 years, 25 years. And I didn't, you'd have the meeting with them, you'd help them, try to help them, and give them some sort of plan for the future. And so I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the opportunity to serve, I guess you would put it, because I feel like the real estate business, you're known as a taker. And I guess I felt bad about that after all these years, and I thought, well, I got to give back. So Maisel spent a lot of time with me and others really discipling us, but it didn't have a, quote, process that you go through. So I knew John not well, but he'd married several people that I know, and he actually came to a group that we meet on Monday morning. 6 of us meet and go through life together and prayer together. And John challenged us. Jim was one of those, and challenged us to go through the program. Well, then he followed up. He probably followed up with all 6 of us, but he definitely followed up with me and says, you need me. you need me. And for those of you that know me, I needed him. So, we started meeting, and it was just giving me a totally different perspective on the opportunity to serve him. So it's just been awesome. And now I've got 2 guys that I'm not mentoring to, I'm discipling to, and it's just do life together. Much as he did with me.
That's the commitment Jeff and these guys have made, that they're going to be doing it, not just go through the book, check. They're investing in other men. Thank you, man.
You bet.
Dr. Carl Couch on the end down here. I met him having lunch one day. My doctor, David Winter, said, you got to meet Dr. Couch. You'll love him. And within 1 2-hour lunch, he caught fire with this disciple making. So why don't you go from there?
Thanks, John. Carl Couch. I'm a physician and been a physician in the Dallas Garland area actually for many years. The last part of my career, I was in physician leadership and led the largest group of physicians in Texas. I was about to retire, and I knew I was really looking for what God wanted me to do. I knew that I'd never been truly faithful to Matthew 28:19, but I didn't know how to do it. I actually jumped in and recruited 3 guys and said, let's do discipleship, and it was a total failure. And the reason was these guys didn't understand that at the end of this, I wanted them to go do this with somebody else. They thought it was just a Bible study. And so then I met John, and John taught me how to do discipleship. I've been very involved with that and discipling men every year.
And by the way, hold on. Would you put that chart up, Carl Couch? That's what's happened the last 5 or 6 years. Keep going, Carl.
Well, it's changed my life. It's just the greatest thing I've ever been involved in. It's brought me closer to the Lord, but the gratification that many of you are probably grandparents, and virtually all of you that are married are probably parents, and to see somebody come up to you and say, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian because of John, and John was because of Bill, and I got to disciple Bill. And when you see someone that's come to be a close follower of Jesus and a disciple maker, and you didn't even know him, it is life-changing, absolutely life-changing. So if the Lord gives me a few more years, I plan to use them for that. It's what I do. I disciple one young man who's here today, and I'm trying to disciple some guys in my neighborhood right now, and they're believers, but they really don't know the Lord well, and so we're committed to that. But the blessing that it's been in my life is incredible. Thanks.
Thank you, Carl. And he didn't get into it, and we're out of time almost now, but if you'll pass that to Michael, but he has pounded on the door of his pastor at the Heights Baptist Church for a couple years, and now they have taken off in that church. The pastor and the leadership are discipling, and the people are catching fire, and there are very few disciple-making churches in America, handful. I can only think of 2 or 3 in Dallas. They talk about discipling, they give training and information, but what these guys are talking about, this is a different deal. So, Michael, boom.
Thanks, Coach. Am I on?
No, you're not on. I don't know why.
How about now? We good? Coach, I got 1 minute, right?
No, you got 2 or 3. Go ahead.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
I'm not going to do that.
As Coach mentioned, Michael Santiago, I'm on staff with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, been doing that a little over 2 decades. John and I met 13, 14 years ago. He came into the devotional for our staff, and then I didn't see him for a couple of years. I went through a little bit of burnout in ministry, and when I came back, one of my dearest friends, Coach Randy Allen, we were talking at a Monday night FCA meeting, and he said, Michael, what's next for you? And I said, Coach Allen, I need a man who will strategically invest into me, someone who sees things, has experienced life, and has seen God show up. And he said, I got the guy for you. I said, well, who's that, Coach? And he said, the guy who's speaking tonight here at FCA, it's John Tolson. So, make a long story short, we met. John agreed to invest into me, and Thursday mornings for almost a year was revolutionary for me. In fact, we got to a point where Wednesdays, my wife knew what was going to happen the next day. because she got to a point where she told me, hey, you are different after you spent time with a man of God who simply loves Jesus and is committed to what Scripture has called us to do. Be disciples who will simply make disciples. Gentlemen, it's not complicated. Where we have to muster the courage is to commit to do this. And so it started at home, and Coach knows this, just how it impacted my relationship with my wife, how I saw her, how I treated her. And then it passed on to my sons. And my firstborn, we went through the 4Ps together, transformed our relationship deeply. And those of you who have children in here, I cannot encourage you enough. Seize that opportunity with your kids. As all of us have alluded to, we're all hungry. Sometimes we know it and sometimes we don't. So your role strategically as a grandfather, uncle, brother, husband, father, you've got some pull there. So just want to encourage you in that space. There's a lot of other things I can think of right now, but out of respect for time, one of the most revolutionary things for me to be reminded of is, number one, that book, 4Ps. Let me tell you why it's so successful. It's chock full of God's word. Right? We're literally reading portions of God's word in that book, which is why it's so deeply impactful. It nourishes our soul. That's a huge takeaway from me. And number two, guys, one of the things that Dr. Tolson and I did, and many of you who have had the chance to do this with him and possibly with other men who have invested into you, is the power of prayer. I'm committed to prayer, believe in the power of prayer. Something happened with us when Dr. Tolson says, hey, we're going to be real strategic about this. We're going to exchange prayer requests with each other. And it's not if God shows up. It's not even possibly how he shows up. It's when he shows up. And do we have the courage to be reminded and reflect as we go through life of God's goodness and God's faithfulness? That has been huge for me. It has transformed my prayer life. And one of the results of that are two godly men sitting at the table here with me today who were part of those prayer logs prior to me inviting them to enter into the 4-priority relationship. And it's been a gift for me to watch so much multiplication take place. And a lot of that simply comes to us as men saying, God, I want to be available. I want to be faithful. And as you direct me, strategically invest into other men. I'll leave you with this 2 verses. John 15:7 says this. Jesus said, if you will remain in me and my word remains in you, ask what you will, and it shall be done. The call on us is to be disciples who make disciples. So part of our ask of God is, God, show me, bring to mind, help me see who's right in front of me, who desires this. And the other one is Proverbs 22:1. A good name is more valuable than silver and gold. I'm looking at a room full of men, many of you walking with Jesus, some of you fans of Jesus, some of you just have questions about Jesus. I assure you, gentlemen, God has a very scripted plan for you. And part of that is that you would give your life away to the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Michael. We're going to have you back. You got some good stuff there. If you want to look on the screen, that's what Michael's done since 2018. We finished at the end of 2017, and that's a little bit of the encouragement of his multiplication. And no telling where this thing is going. It changes the planet. I want to close with a brief video, and then I'll pray for it to end, so if you can kind of hang for an extra minute or two. This is from Larry O'Donnell, former president of a worldwide company, Waste Management, and he is in Austin lighting that city up with disciple making. So let's play that, and then we'll close it up.
Hey, this is Larry O'Donnell, and I just want to share with you a quick message about discipleship. I've been so blessed to have had Pastor Richard Ellis disciple me for about a year, several years ago, and I'm so thankful that both he and John Tolson have taught me how to disciple others. 2 Timothy 2:2 calls each of us to pour into others and disciple others who will be able to teach others also. It's been an absolute joy and honor for me to get to disciple others. I typically meet one-on-one with people for about an hour each week for anywhere from 9 to 12 months. I use John Tolson's book, The 4 Priorities, and we typically cover about a chapter each week. But it's not about trying to get through the book. The book is just a tool to help stimulate discussion. In some weeks, we won't even get through the chapter. There's other things that we need to talk about. Discipling others has brought tremendous joy to me as I've seen the way the Holy Spirit has utilized me as his instrument to help others grow in their faith in Jesus Christ and their understanding of God. And it's given me great joy to help equip them to be able to disciple others and make other disciple makers. I continue to follow up with those who I've discipled in past years because deep bonds of friendship are established through the process. And it's very encouraging to me to get to hear about all the people that they're now discipling and even the people that they've discipled who they're now discipling. Many generations have resulted from the process. Discipleship is all about making disciples who want to make disciples, who want to make disciple makers, who want to make disciple makers, and on and on. That's Jesus' plan for each of us, so I hope that you'll give it a try. If you're like me, you're going to be amazed to see who God puts in your life and the experience that you're going to gain from it, not only in seeing how much the person that you disciple learns and grows, but how much you'll grow yourself through the process. I can tell you, I've come away from every single time I've discipled someone that I've learned something through the process to help me grow in my own personal relationship with the Lord. So I encourage you to give it a try.
There's nothing that has been more challenging in my life than making disciples. It's hard work. It's really hard work. It's easy to put a meeting like this on. It's easy to put a little Bible study on. This is easy. But the reward and the change in my own life as a result of being able to be engaged in this, there's nothing like it. If you want to change the planet, you got to do it his way. And what I've spent my life doing will continue. And Carl, you and I are pretty close to each other on that age thing. I'm going to go to I can't go anymore, and this is what we do. And my dream is to get this planted all over this city, all over this state, and particularly all over this country. And if you got some ideas, some ways you'd like to help with that, let me know, because this is a life changer. And I just want you guys to know, Carl and Michael and Jim and Jeff and Andrew and Steve Hatfield and Joseph, I love you guys. I am so proud of you. But more than that, he's smiling. So, Lord, thank you for this time, and I pray that you would use this not just to give reports, but the spirit of this would touch each of our hearts to the point where we would say, Lord, I want you to be Lord in my life. I want you to be the ruler in my life. And therefore, I want to carry out the mandates, the commands that you've asked us to do. And Lord, I pray in this room, I know there are already guys in this room that are already discipling, and I'm so proud of them, but we need more. And finally, Lord, I want to pray for those in this room who know that they need Jesus and that they would right now say, Jesus, come into my life, clean me up, and from this day forward, help me to become the man you've always wanted me to be. In Jesus' name. And on November 2, we'll be back for the next series. Thank you.